Good morning, my friends. Well, after many failed attempts to make a top 10 best Wii U games list, I decided that I'm going to start from scratch because a lot of problems involve trying to put background music. That kind of failed. I tried to thank my girlfriend for it being the 1 year anniversary of us getting together. That also kind of failed. And I also said that I was going to try to do it without a script, then edited it out so that I could have a script. That also failed. Now I have a script, no music. Happy anniversary, girlfriend. And I've got my t-shirt on from the get-go instead of my sweater. So the only thing left I have to do is turn off the heater so that you don't criticize the audio quality of this. And let's go! Now mind you, this video was published after the Wii U was officially discontinued. The Champions Ballad DLC was released for Breath of the Wild. I can officially say the Wii U is dead. And as promised in my Champions Ballad review, I am going to present my top 10 favorite Wii U games. Yes, I can actually say it, of all time, because the system is dead. Unless we have a Wii U Classic Edition that comes along some 20 some odd years later that releases, say, this unreleased Wii U prototype, like Star Fox 2 for the SNES Classic Edition. Here's hoping we can get that Zelda tech demo one way or another. So to start things off, this is going to be a rather odd choice, but number 10 is Yoshi's Woolly World. The reason why it's odd is that I don't own the game, never have owned it. I have only played 3 levels for it. Why is it on the list, you might ask? Because it was the framework for Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, which is one of my favorite platformers. Because it established the general aesthetic, it has superb music, and it made for the most adorable amiibo that I have ever owned. And I also got a Poochie amiibo and gave it to my best female friend Kara as sort of like a, don't worry, you're still in my life, despite the fact that I have a girlfriend now. So you can thank Poochie and Yoshi's Woolly World, as well as the original, for creating the yarn aesthetic in the first place, for me keeping one of my longest standing good relationships with a female, other than my girlfriend. Actually, we've known each other longer. Well, anyway, good for you, Yoshi's Woolly World, for letting me keep Kara in my life. Good for you, Kara. Keep being awesome. Number 9 on the list is Twilight Princess HD. Now, it's kind of surprising that it's number 9, because if this were any year before 2017, I would have put it much higher. But the thing is, after playing Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey, it sort of highlighted Twilight Princess's flaws even more so than they already were. The textures just seemed really ugly in comparison. The world seemed rather puny. The controls took some getting used to. And overall, it just felt like an underwhelming title to put on the Wii U, especially when a tech demo for a Zelda game appeared and it actually looked better than Breath of the Wild. It looked like something you'd see on the Xbox 360 at the time. Xbox One wasn't even heard of. And yet we got this. Still, Twilight Princess is a fantastic game, and it's still my number 2 spot. It has some amazing action. It has quite possibly the best graphics in the series, although I'm starting to lean more towards Breath of the Wild. And the HD version makes it significantly smoother on the eyes, even if I think they did a pretty darn lazy job of not updating the graphics enough when we saw what the Wii U tech demo could have done. Still, if you haven't played Twilight Princess yet, I highly recommend doing it on the Wii U so that you can get a nice texture upgrade, amiibo support, getting rid of the stupid Wii controls, and playing it like it was meant to, like a GameCube re-release. Number 8 is Hyrule Warriors. Again, kind of low on the list because Hyrule Warriors Legends came out for the 3DS 2 years later, and surpassed this version in every way with the exception of the graphics, which looked downright awful. Hyrule Warriors was my first Dynasty Warriors-esque experience, and in my opinion, I think it's the perfect starting point. Because it took the formula of you're a one-man army that's trying to defeat an army of hundreds and put Zelda characters and elements into it, resulting in one of the best doses of fan service I have ever seen outside of Super Smash Bros. You've got characters from all over the Zeldaverse. You've got an entire adventure mode that's based on the original map of The Legend of Zelda. A soundtrack that was a lot better than I expected, especially since when Nintendo first revealed it, it sounded like they were mostly just going to remake popular Zelda tunes and make them with an electric guitar. But they have a shocking amount of orchestral and live performed pieces, including Eclipse of the Moon, which even has a chorus. Whoa! Haven't seen that in a Zelda game very often. And even better, to think that that's a spin-off. No, Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright is still the best spin-off in my opinion. But Hyrule Warriors is definitely a great place if you love Zelda and don't particularly care that it's a shallow beat-em-up on the surface. Number 7 is Nintendo Land. Again, low on the list because while it is a blast to play with friends, it is a dreadful bore trying to play alone. It was clearly designed with multiplayer in mind, and while the game looks great and plays great and takes great advantage of the Wii U gamepad and even the Wii remotes, as dated as they are, I don't often have people to play it with, or enough people to play it with, to make it fun enough to put it high up there. However, the experiences that we have had, Luigi's Ghost Mansion, the shouts and the strategies we've given to each other, Mario Chase, The Legend of Zelda Battle Quest, it was especially fun to show off my Skyward Sword play and teach it to my friend Nick so that he could eventually get Skyward Sword for himself and try it out. It made for an overall satisfying experience that it's a shame I got way too late, but thankfully I only had to pay about $3 for it, so it was well worth it. Number 6. Oh wait, we're at number 6. I can't count today. Number 6, we have something that you probably wouldn't have expected from a guy like me who typically doesn't like experimentation. But surprisingly, the only first-party Nintendo game to make this list was Little Inferno. Now, Little Inferno is that kind of game where you don't think you're going to like it at first because it has this super bizarre art style that Tomorrow Corporation is known for. If you've played any of their other games, it shouldn't shock you. Just to name a few, World of Goo and Human Resource Machine, both also available on the Switch if you're done with the Wii U. Little Inferno is a game where it's a fireplace simulator. There's really nothing more that can be said about it. You take objects, toss them in a fireplace, use the stylus on the gamepad to burn them, try to make combos to progress the storyline, and that's where things get interesting, is that the game actually tries to inject a storyline into a simple game about burning, and then it gets a lot deeper than you thought it would, including one of the weirdest yet coolest endings I've ever seen. But even if it wasn't a story-driven fireplace simulator, it's a lot of fun to see how the objects are going to burn and the realistic flame physics, especially when you burn the object that was very clearly inspired by Duck Hunt and everything becomes all pixelated like the old days. It's super duper cool. And I'm going to try to move along with this list because I am freezing and conveniently. The next object on my list is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, even colder than my room is without the heater. The things I do to make sure you guys don't hear background noise. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze doesn't stray too far from the formula established by Donkey Kong Country Returns for the Wii, but it does pick up on a lot of the enhancements that the 3DS remake of the Wii game added and more. It has, all the items that were introduced in Returns 3D's Easy Mode to make the game more accessible to newcomers, plus it included 2 additional companions that Donkey Kong could have. Dixie Kong, so that she could use her ponytail to basically give Donkey Kong a double jump, and Cranky Kong, where Donkey Kong could basically become Scrooge McDuck. Where is their originality? Not to mention, the game is one of the best looking titles on the Wii U, boasting one of the first times in history that Donkey Kong's fur is actually animated. Plus, it has some amazing set pieces with tons of stuff going on in both the background and foreground, which, yes, you can switch between. Much more manageable minecart and rocket barrel levels, and still just enough challenge to make sure that it's not too easy, but just enough leniency to make sure that it's not too hard. And they got rid of the stupid pig, so good for you, Tropical Freeze. Oh, and the fact that the original composer of the SNES Donkey Kong Country trilogy, David Wise, returned not only to compose but to have live performances for most of the songs and an in-game soundtrack, I'm sold. Next up is, I think we're at number 5. No, actually we're at number 4 already. I cannot count. Super Mario Maker. Now, I am putting this on the list strictly from the perspective of someone who plays, not who makes. The most I've ever done with the level editor is scratch out a part of an existing level so that I have enough room to test my amiibo figures. Yeah, you should see some of my custom stages in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. They're pretty abysmal, at least according to my brothers and best friend. Hey, I'd like to think I did a pretty cool job creating a Pac-Man stage before we even knew about Pac-Man and Smash for 3DS. Super Mario Maker takes 4 beloved styles of Mario gameplay and allows you to mix and match with those styles to create situations you would have never dreamed possible. Having swimming Goombas, 8-bit chain chomps, and even a SNES-themed Baby Bowser battle before Baby Bowser was even a thing. The amount of stuff that people have come up with is absolutely phenomenal, and due to the fact that the game seems to have a limitless pool of levels to choose from, as well as event levels if I want to fill out my amiibo calendar more, I could theoretically play Super Mario Maker for the rest of my life and never get bored. Not to mention it supports nearly every amiibo that was released prior to Breath of the Wild, so there's a lot of fan service going around. And who doesn't love fan service? Speaking of which, that comprises pretty much the entirety of the rest of my list, so let's get started. Number 3 is Mario Kart 8. Boy, does this game feel like a slap in the face now that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came around. Having all of the tracks and all of the DLC included from the start makes me feel like an idiot for churning out extra money for all that DLC, but I will argue that the Wii U version is better for the sole purpose of that, for one, it was the original version, so it did not have the benefit of just being a lazy port. It radically reinvented Mario Kart by making it in HD, which wasn't just a simple, oh, this looks a little bit better, like Tropical Freeze did for Returns. No. Mario Kart 8 looked astounding. In fact, when I make my best graphics for the Wii U list, inevitably, this game is going to be number 1. It is downright gorgeous to look at, and not just for a Mario title, not just for a Wii U title. It's one of the best looking games I've ever seen on any platform. Don't tell my brother that, or he's going to pull out the next Final Fantasy video. Mario Kart 8 is also a blast to play, bringing along the underwater and gliding racing from Mario Kart 7, along with anti-gravity antics, and with the DLC adding stuff from F-Zero, The Legend of Zelda, Animal Crossing, and Excitebike, and even Mercedes cars as car parts. Admittedly, I think the roster is a bit on the weird side, and I kind of don't like how customizing carts is pretty cumbersome, but overall, Mario Kart 8 can't complain much about. Oh, what's that? It has a terrible battle mode? Well, yeah, it does have a terrible battle mode, but the rest of the game is pretty darn spanking good, and has provided for some of the best multiplayer action I have ever had. I've even been able to play it with my girlfriend, and it's just been an overall blast. Here's hoping it'll stay in my Wii U for a very long time. In fact, it'll have to stay in my Wii U indefinitely because it was built in with the system when I got it. Go figure. Number 2, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. You knew this had to be in the top 3. No question. It's basically Super Smash Bros. Brawl on steroids. Looks gorgeous, has this humongous character roster. It has Pac-Man, tons of fan service, orchestral music. What isn't there to love about Super Smash Bros. For Wii U? Well, if I'm going to be personally nitpicky, while it's cool to have 494 songs in the soundtrack, including all the DLC, it would have been nice to see some more fully original orchestral songs along the lines of Super Mario Galaxy or Mario Galaxy 2 or Skyward Sword, but at least they had songs from that game that were fully orchestrated in the soundtrack, so I guess that's a decent compromise. Also, it didn't do much that Super Smash Bros. Brawl didn't already conceptualize, and in some aspects it actually did it worse. Whereas Super Smash Bros. Brawl introduced the stage builder in this game is an absolute joke. Ugh, I don't even want to talk about it, it's so bad. And it doesn't radically reinvent the Smash series. However, it fixes pretty much all of the major flaws in the overall fighting system, and the core Smash gameplay is perfectly preserved and perfected here, with 7 different control schemes, customizable characters, over 54, too many characters to choose from, and the option to play any stage in Final Destination mode makes this the definitive Smash experience until the inevitable Switch or next Nintendo console version comes out. Here's hoping they'll get the Orchestra Melee team from the original game to come back. And finally, number 1. Ooh boy, is this a good day. Not only is this number 1 coming out of left field, but it actually surpassed Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright as my favorite video game, which I didn't actually think was possible, unless they made Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright 2. And that is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Hold it! Phoenix, seriously, I just told you that you were my second favorite game of all time. Well, Paul, don't you know that Breath of the Wild is also a Switch game? As I was saying, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has to be the most ambitious and wonderful project that the Wii U has ever put out. Granted, it kind of doesn't do the Wii U justice as far as like what the system is capable of. The motion controls are really frustrating when you use them in the shrines to solve puzzles, and they don't always work exactly the way you want them to when you're aiming your bow. But the rest of the game is darn spankin' amazing. One of the biggest game worlds I've ever seen. You can climb pretty much anything. There's so much stuff you can collect and do and see, and the scenery is just absolutely gorgeous. And not to mention that it's an absolute blast to try to speedrun Hyrule Castle. Oh my gosh. Breath of the Wild is the kind of game that every time you pick it up, it seems like there's something new to do. Whether it's trying to get through the next batch of DLC, a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 armor set dropping out of the sky from nowhere, literally, because, the red stars falling from... Never mind. And, well, I guess the game's been out long enough that I can officially spoil it. You get a motorcycle. If you can persevere through all of that and pay $20 extra. Breath of the Wild proves to be the penultimate experience for the Wii U. While it may not have taken advantage of the gamepad as much as we would have wanted, it basically summarizes, hey, guess what? Grand, big, phenomenal, and reinventing the Legend of Zelda series, as well as bringing it back to its roots at the same time. And currently, the only game that even comes close to that caliber is Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch. Anywho, thank you very much for watching. Phoenix, your objection is overruled because the game was developed for the Wii U first, so therefore the Switch version, like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, is another lazy port. So, take that! Ooh, oh man. I can say take that to the legendary Phoenix, right? I feel accomplished. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please let me know what your favorite Wii U games are. If any of the ones that I listed were not on your list, I would love to have a good discussion, especially if there's another good one I can pick up. A couple of honorable mentions to games that I like but didn't get a chance to play enough of them to appreciate are Star Fox Zero, Splatoon, the SteamWorld Collection, Typo Man, and I can't quite remember the fifth at the moment, but I'm sure it'll come to me eventually. Anyway, keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye. Now time to put my heater back on. Okay, guys. That's how you enjoy the winter time. Oh, and if I haven't said this already, happy anniversary, my favorite girlfriend. I love you. Bye.